Hey Tunes and Boots, my name is Mark, I'm new to Monster Hunter and I'm pretty sure I love it. Today I want to talk about why I love it, how I came to love it, and why I think you just might love it too. I used to look at Monster Hunter games like they were riddles. I could not understand the appeal or why people would want to hunt the same monsters over and over and over, or why anyone would enjoy something with so many menus, tutorials, and tiny specific details. The whole concept of the game just didn't really make sense to me. I knew the games were critically acclaimed and people seemed to love them, but it seemed like they were more of a chore than a hobby. To me, it just looked like one of those games nerds played to keep their math skills sharp. Monster Hunter World is where I started to see the appeal. The game looked beautiful, the animations were super detailed, the monsters were so varied and unique, and a butt ton of people bought the game and claimed to enjoy it. There's enough hype around it that I finally caved. I bought the game, told myself I was finally going to make myself understand the hype, loaded it up, played for about 6 hours, and bought my first PC a day later and got sucked into H1Z1's Battle Royale mode, which led me to one of the biggest gaming time sucks of my life, PUBG. These days, PUBG feels ancient, Warzone keeps having its broken meta replaced by a new broken meta, Rocket League is wonderful and beautiful and will always be the best, but I get burnt out on it. Apex, Siege, Valorant are still great, but after a while I just needed something different, like way different. I needed something out there to cleanse the competitive shooter palette, so I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remakes again, and that was pretty sick. But after I got that out of my system again, I read about the Monster Hunter Rise demo. Intrigued, I downloaded it, played a couple hunts with less than zero idea of what I was doing, and I put it down. The thing that finally got me to put a real effort into learning at least kind of what was going on in this series is my sister in New York City telling me I should get the game so we could play together. Overall, I would generally say that I like my sister, so I said, screw it, and jumped in. I'm sure you can guess what happened next by the fact that I took the time to make a video about this game, so let's jump into why I think I love this game, why I think you will too, and how to approach this game without getting scared off. When you first load into Monster Hunter Rise, you come to a character creation screen. I don't have any video of that because I didn't know I'd be making this video or liking the game as much as I do now. From what I remember, the character creator is pretty good. I didn't spend much time there because if I allow myself to care too much about that kind of stuff, I will never get out of it. So you then go into a bunch of cutscenes I didn't pay attention to. Again, I didn't know I'd be so into the game, so don't yell at me, unless you want to. And actually, it would probably help my video in the algorithm if you yelled at me, so maybe do that actually. That'd be cool. Anyway, you come into the beautiful, somewhat limited village of Kamura. I say somewhat limited because I'm pretty sure a lot of these buildings are meant to be furnished, but given the whole, world situation right now, I think Capcom wanted to make sure that they put in all the basics and whatever little fun stuff that they could manage to get working by release, and the rest will kind of just be filled out in time. Normally that might be a bad thing. Hi Cyberpunk. But you can just feel that everything that actually did make it to the release is made with such care that I truly don't mind, and I'm excited to see what some of these places will look like in the future by Cyberpunk. And hey, maybe they're just locked off to me right now because I'm not a high enough level. That's certainly possible. Either way, I have no doubt that something is coming to these buildings and I'm gonna like whatever it ends up being. Even just walking around in the parts that are currently open with the very realistic character animations ends up being fun and interesting. The look, the feel, the sounds in every part of this town just oozes charm, and even when I had literally no idea what to do, and I barely know any more than that now, I just knew that this would be the time that I finally got into Monster Hunter, or at least that I would come to understand what other people liked about it, even if I didn't like it myself. So let's talk about the gameplay itself. One thing that kept me out for so long is the sluggish, clunky looking combat I would see in videos and feel in the demos I played, and it's so hard to come from similar-ish gameplay loops in games like Destiny or The Division, and yes, I know they're very different, where everything is point, shoot, run, loot, repeat, to something like Monster Hunter without giving a serious, deliberate effort to learning the combat and understanding the timing, stamina use, status effects, and the general effects of how you conduct your hunts. And the combat is a little tough to get used to, but I promise it is so worth the little bit of effort to learn. You will almost certainly come to, if not love, at least appreciate the way that you have to be so deliberate in every movement, every action, every step back to avoid an attack or to heal up, sharpen your weapon, restore your stamina, or set up some type of trap. There's so much strategy to each hunt. You really have to have some type of idea as to how you want to approach each monster, and once you get a hang of things, what you hope to gain from that hunt. Certain weapons work better for lopping off a monster's tail, my personal favorite way to hunt. Certain weapons work well for supporting other players, and certain others are just easier to start with. You can see from my gameplay that I am no expert in how this combat goes, but I have at least been able to glean enough information through sheer perseverance to get to the point where I can be helpful in a hunt. The most important thing is I'm having a ton of fun, and so far haven't held anyone back. Once you get into the game a bit, you will see the weapon trees, armor sets, what seems like millions of items, crafting solutions, etc. It can be overwhelming, and I certainly felt that way at first. That's why I want to talk about what worked for me to get into this game. What helped me finally get over the hump to a point where I understand enough of the mechanics to have a really good time. So here we are, the hard part, the part that kept me out of the game for so long, the part that is so hard to get through that I think many people will never try, which is a shame because, as I've said, this game is radder than your dadder. So how do you get through the confusing stuff? How do you get past the menus, the inventory, the Meowcenaries, the Argosy, the Dangos, the Rampages, the weapons? You just have to start simple. That's what worked for me. Start out by just trying to get a hang of the combat. You don't have to master it right away, and you definitely won't, so don't even worry about it. It's easy to be overwhelmed in the beginning by all the combat possibilities. The monsters take a while to kill. Early hunts might take you 10 to 20 minutes for one monster, and don't think that because it's taking a while to slay a monster that you're doing something wrong. It's actually kind of the point. It will be one of the things you learn to enjoy and appreciate about the game at some point. Remember that just because you're not doing crazy flips or wild stunning attacks doesn't mean you aren't making progress. You hit anything with a sharp sword or a hammer enough times and it'll eventually drop. This kind of goes into the next tip. Try not to get too hung up on inventory. Make sure that you have stuff like potions and rations on hand at the start of your hunts in the beginning. Collect any plants, bugs, rocks that are shiny, and just stock up. You'll start to learn these things as you go. Once you start learning what a few of these items do, you'll have enough knowledge to familiarize yourself with some of the rest. Don't try to learn everything all at once. In fact, I think it might help you to remind yourself that you should not be trying to learn this stuff right out of the gate. If you need a rough idea of when you should start paying attention to that, village and hub quests become high rank at 4 or 5 stars, I can't remember which. By the time you reach that, you will likely have a pretty good idea of how you like to fight, some of the items you need or want with you, and what kind of weapons you like to use. That said, I think you should get familiar with looking into weapon trees and armor types. If you have an upgrade available and it gives you a higher damage rating or defense rating and you like the look of it, do it. If not, then your choice is made for you, obviously. Do this enough to get an idea of how your gear can be crafted and upgraded, but don't get too hung up on all the fine details just yet. Early on, the only thing that really matters is getting used to the flow of the game. Eventually, you'll come to love carefully studying these numbers and planning your hunts to go after specific monster materials that will help you craft that special something, like the sick cowboy hat made out of Roki materials. In games like this, the gear is the goal, but the gameplay is the real hook. Make sure that hook is set before you start getting too caught up in the minutia. Again, start simple and remind yourself that you'll get there. This isn't a race. There's nothing wrong with being behind others. I talked a little bit ago about the village and hub quests. The big difference is basically the village quests are just for you, hub quests are for multiplayer. Think of the village quests like tutorial or story quests. Some of them are literally tutorials that will teach you how to use weapons, traps, tranquilizers, wirebugs. Some of them are just easy enough to help you get a feel of the movement in combat while giving you enough pushback to understand that you can't just stand there and blindly wail at a monster. It's not going to work out very well. They will get more and more difficult, but if you're still not feeling comfortable, you can go back and replay other quests for materials or just for practice. Hub quests will look identical to village quests, but you will find them in, you guessed it, the Gathering Hub. The Gathering Hub is basically the multiplayer zone. You can pretty much find just about everything you need there. Downstairs, you will see a counter where you can accept quests. Keep in mind that these quests will be intended for multiple players, so the monsters will have more health. I found that out the hard way. Just to the right of the counter, you'll see a quest board. This board has all the same quests. However, here you can select the option to join someone else's quest, essentially guaranteeing at least one other person helping you along, barring any network connection issues. This will be where you find the most fun in this game, working with other people. Still, unless you have a friend who knows what's going on already, try to hold off on these until you get through a few levels of village quests, the solo player quests. You'll know enough by then to not feel like a burden to the rest of the team. So there you go. These are a couple of my ideas for how to get into Monster Hunter Rise. Just remember that this is no race. There's no pressure to get ahead unless you put it on yourself, so don't. If you are even mildly interested in this game, I have no doubt that you will enjoy it if you give it the time and effort it requires. I'm talking to you, noob to noob, and I believe in you, and I hope that you'll give it a try and that you enjoy yourself. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Mark Clausen, and I've been wanting to make videos on YouTube for a while now. Finally found something that I was excited enough to make something about and get the word out. So let me know if you liked or disliked this video. If you want to see more Monster Hunter or gaming content, please let me know in the comments. If you think I'm interesting or handsome but don't care about gaming, let me know and maybe I can try to make some other stuff. I'm open to suggestions. I like mountain bikes and a bunch of other stuff too.